So I thought we would talk about something a little more cheery, which is Marco Rubio. Because Marco Rubio has revealed himself to be something of a dark horse. And nobody really saw this coming because Marco Rubio, as far as I was aware, was just some rhino.
Yeah.
Who was just some normie Republican, I agree with the left on basically everything.
Iconic kind of character.
Yeah, just very normal.
Yeah.
I've never paid much attention to him, frankly.
I hadn't paid that much attention to him because everything I'd seen was him just the cookie-cutter Republican, safe, narrative.
Yeah. Obviously,
sort of
American commenters have a lot more knowledge of him, but looking from across the ocean, there were always much more interesting and notable American politicians to take note of.
He just seemed very bland and very uninteresting. And so, I mean, you may remember that back in 2015 when Trump said, you know what, I'm going to do it, and everyone freaked out about it. I mean, after Trump was like, Mexico sending us people who have a lot of problems, they're bringing those problems to us, they're bringing drugs, bringing crime, they're rapists, and Marco Rubio said, quote, Trump's comments are not just offensive and inaccurate, but also divisive. So on the normie Republican narrative with that back then. And
they were enemies at the time, so of course he's going to...
Well, I'll go through it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that wasn't the other thing. He called Donald Trump a con artist, called him embarrassing, called him the most vulgar person to ever aspire to the presidency. And it was Marco Rubio who coined the small hands thing, I think, as well. But yeah, con man, blah, blah, blah. We can't let him take over the Reagan and conservative movement. And so it's like, right, okay, that was pretty normie. Pretty mainstream center-right Republican talking points. Boring, really uninspiring. And so it was nice when Donald Trump smacked him down, obviously. Marco Rubio is a total lightweight who I wouldn't hire to run one of my smaller companies. A highly overrated politician was one thing. He called him sweaty, called him a puppet, called him a nasty guy, although for some reason Facebook won't let us see that. But and, of course, calls him Little Marco. And so this, this was a strange thing, how Little Marco then became kind of one of Trump's closest friends and best buddies, which was interesting. So basically, Marco had been ingratiating himself into the Trump circle after Trump won the nomination and after he declared for 2024. And Trump passed over him for J.D. Vance. And so instead of acting like a salty bitch, Rubio was like, okay, well, I'm just going to work harder. I'm going to double down and I'm going to get the job done. And so he and Trump actually started working amicably on shared policy goals. And Trump realized, okay, he took the sort of, the public ribbing quite well, gave as good as he got. And okay, so Marco Rubio basically starts getting a bunch of big jobs. He's now the top diplomat, foreign aid chief, national archivist, and national security advisor. And so he's doing a lot for Trump. And
it just shows you Trump's magnanimity, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the fact that if you can take it on the chin, Trump will respect
He likes it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the king approves.
Exactly. And so Marco Rubio has been absolutely scrapping with Democrats. And I won't play this one because it's about 4 minutes long and goes on. But I'm going to play a bunch of clips that are just, okay, I didn't realize you had this in you, Marco, and I'm loving it. So you've got this first one about USAID, where Marco Rubio is just like, no, everything that Elon Musk did with USAID is good, and we need to do more.
And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret.
Can you turn that up a bit,
Secretary of State.
Jack, sorry.
I yield back.
May I respond?
You may sit.
Well,
We
first of
can't
all,
hear
you're-
this one very well, but
I think it went down in volume for me.
yeah, that went the wrong way, I think. But yeah, no. So as you can see here, quote, I'm very proud of what we've done with USAID. I don't regret cutting $10 million for male circumcisions in Mozambique. Yeah, good. Why would you be doing that? We spent $227,000 for Big Cat's YouTube channel from USAID. We spent $40 million from social cohesion in Mali. Whatever the hell that means. So I can go on and on. I got the list here and there's more. I didn't even bring the whole list. I don't know how this makes us stronger and more prosperous as a nation. Well, I can't explain how male circumcisions in Mozambique make America stronger. I have to admit.
Something to do with inclusivity and diversity.
I don't
which
know.
We know.
Democracy, surely?
So in like an RPG sense, like diversity, inclusivity is always like a plus 10% buff to strength. That's how they seem to treat it. So if you're doing that and it's more diverse, then you're buffing your strength somehow.
I guess you must be. And then
let's not forget, during COVID as well, the British government was doing very similar things to funding the YouTube channels. Remember, I think it was Philosophy Tube and a number of other of the BreadTube lefty channels were getting government funding from the British government to spread COVID propaganda.
Yeah, I would have done it. How much care?
You're always looking for that big sellout paycheck that never comes on.
I know. I'm constantly being told we're being funded by Israel, but I'm like, but I've never received a check.
I would have more bedrooms than I do if we were being funded by Israel.
Right, but then you've got Marco Rubio on foreign aid, which is again just highly strong.
Yes, we canceled a bunch of contracts in USAID. Some were stupid and outrageous. Others didn't serve the national interest, and others we kept. And we are folding it under the Department of State. And you know why? Because we want it to be part of the toolbox of foreign policy, not a standalone. It is not charity. Foreign aid is not charity. It is designed to further the national interest of the United States.
That's strong stuff.
Totally solid.
Yeah. It's amazing the way that Trump is like terraforming the Republican Party.
Oh, it's so good.
People like Rubio, who, as you said, were just rhinos before, conservatives, who are now basically, they sound like him. They sound like Trump.
Yeah.
It's great.
Just hardline nativists at this point. And to be honest, it gets better, frankly. So Rubio going on about immigration and just being like, no. Look, you understand. It's our immigration policy, not yours.
Our immigration policy should be based on the national interest of the United States, period. End of story. If there is a subset of people that are easier to vet, who we have a better understanding of who they are and what they're going to do when they come here, they're going to receive preference, no doubt about it. There are a lot of sad stories around the world, millions and millions of people around the world. It's heartbreaking. We cannot assume millions and millions of people around the world. No country can. So you have to have a process of deciding who do you prioritize, who do you allow in. We do it all the time. We do it in our immigration system now under our current laws. Unfortunately, it's primarily based on family connection and not on what they're going to contribute to the society from a merit standpoint. That should be changed, but that'll require statutory changes. But the bottom line is this notion that somehow we have to accept anyone who wants to come to the United States is absurd. No country in the world has an immigration policy like that.
Well, we do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But again, look, notice that what he's doing there is explicitly carving out if a group is easier to vet, such as, say, I don't know, South African refugees, then we're going to take them much more easily than just randos from around the world who are just clamoring to get in.
I love that he keeps using that phrase national interest as well.
Yeah.
Because that's such a, you think that's such a sort of politician-y type phrase, but it's not one you hear our leaders use.
No.
You never hear Keir Starmer talk about Britain's national interest. Chagos, mass immigration,
on an
etc.
international scale, there is such a thing as a national interest.
Yeah.
When we had the empire, we had national interests that we were spreading internationally.
Yes.
So it is a completely legitimate political term to use. Like you say, we just don't use it anymore because our national interests are giving away our things to the global south.
But I love that he's talking about every apparatus of the state as being a tool to further the national interest, whether that's foreign aid or immigration, which is obviously the correct way to look at it.
Yes.
But again, our leaders don't look at it like that.
No, and it's been many years since I've heard someone speaking so clearly and forthrightly about what the purpose of government is, which is to advance the national interest, using the tools at their disposal for the advantage of the American people and not, I don't know, the international doctrine of human rights or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to pair this up with the South African government's announcement regarding the Boer refugees going to America. Because one of the things that they put in there that was interesting, that people mainly highlighted the fact that they were saying, oh, we're not punishing them, we're making them pay for historic injustice.
Yeah.
But one of the other things that they said that was very interesting was that they said that this is promoting right-wing ideas, and this goes against the letter and spirit of international law. So,
really? That's an interesting mask-off moment.
That was very interesting because basically what it says is that, and I think this is absolutely true, since 1948 and the UN being established, international law has basically been a resource extraction mechanism from Western nations to the third world.
I mean, that's literally what Keir Starmer is giving away the Chagos Islands for. It's just social justice.
So this kind of thing where you're reframing national interest to be actually national interest, and instead of let's just give away our stuff to crying non-white people, that does go against the international order.
And by the way, I had a recent experience where I raised the idea of national interest on LBC, as viewers may know, and every single other person in the room, from the SNP communist to the Tory, was saying, "How dare you speak in the language of?" They didn't literally say, but they were effectively saying, "How dare you speak in the language of national interest?" And I quite
in the language of mustache men.
Yeah, well, indeed.
It's not though, is it? Like it's the language of every normal state prior to 1948.
Yeah, but that's viewed as being somehow outside the realms of acceptable discourse. It's mad.
We're liberal global internationalists, says Ian Dale, conservative, and
that says it all, doesn't it?
But that's the thing, SNP communist radical, Ian Dale conservative are like, how could you, sir?
Yeah,
and remarkable. But anyway,
which is why it's so gratifying to see the literal American government speaking in these terms.
Exactly. Not just Trump, but also Trump's agents in every place. It's like, no, this is the way it's going to be. Yeah. And this is another great one, right? Because as you can see here, he's being interrogated by a lady saying, "You revoked a foreign woman's student visa," and Marco Rubio's like, "Yeah, we did, and we're going to do more."
Student was a guest in the United States on a student visa.
Can we turn
No
this up,
one's
please,
entitled to a
Jack?
student visa.
So you revoked her student visa based on an op-ed which trumps the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution.
Someone's coming up here to stir up problems on our campus. We're going to revoke their visa.
She didn't do any of that.
Sorry. Okay, don't worry. But the point is, don't worry. The point is, in this woman is horrifically outraged. Oh, how could you? And Rubio just goes into it, and he's just like, listen, can we get... Yeah, he's just like, listen, she was over here on a student visa in order to study, and instead she decided she was going to join a radical left-wing organization and start protesting and causing trouble. And so, we're going to revoke student visas for people who come here and cause trouble, and we're going to do more. We're going to keep doing this.
It's not your human right to be in the United States.
And that's literally what he says. You have no constitutional right to a visa.
There we go. Yeah.
Exactly correct. No, go away. It's completely within the jurisdiction of the Trump administration saying, no, not that person. Sorry, get out. And then you've got more like this, where this is a long one, so I won't play it. But basically, he reiterates, again, the point. You are a guest in our country. And in fact, he says, if you invite me into your home and I start putting mud on your couch and spray painting your kitchen, I bet you're going to kick me out. We're going to do the same thing if you come to the US as a visitor and create a ruckus for us. I encourage every country to do that. It's like, yes, why not? What is the argument against this? Sorry, you can't kick them out for causing trouble and, burning down campuses, whatever it is they're doing. It's like, no, we can.
Whereas once again, to compare it to our situation, our leaders, when they are confronted with a situation where a guest is putting mud on the couch and spray painting the kitchen, will get out the fine china and say, "Do you want to throw these at the wall?" Yeah,
exactly. It's crazy. So anyway, Rubio not having any of it, and he keeps going. And so you've got this one. Hopefully we can hear this one. This is really good.
In the case of El Salvador, absolutely.
I cannot hear this.
Absolutely. We deported gang members.
So basically,
gang members,
feel the
including the one you had a
vibrations of it
margarita
through
with.
the wall.
And that guy
is
a human trafficker.
Basically, in this one, he's saying that, look, the judicial branch can just shut its goddamn mouth, right? Because, of course, the Trump administration is like, look, we're going to deport a bunch of gang members who are here illegally, and the courts have been trying to intercede in this. And Rubio is just here going, no, listen, the courts don't get to decide our foreign policy or domestic policy when it comes to illegal immigrants. They just don't get to decide this. And you can see he's just not taking that shit.
Yeah.
He's just like, no, this is how it's going to be because we're the ones who got elected and you aren't.
Yeah. About time.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely about time. Yeah. There's another one where the Pope came out and was like, well, is it Catholic to deport illegal immigrants? And, are you going to be compassionate? And Rubio's just like, listen, you're not a political figure. You're a spiritual figure, and there's nothing compassionate about illegal immigrants. Now, Marco Rubio is a Floridian Cuban, so I'm guessing he's Catholic. So to come out and be like, yeah, I actually don't care about what the Pope says about this.
You could ask the Spanish during the Reconquista as well.
Well,
was it very Catholic of them?
Well, I mean, to be fair,
yes.
Considering what they were up against, maybe. The Aztecs were pretty awful, and they were pagans. So
I was more talking about the Reconquista of the Iberian Peninsula.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, of course. Well, yeah, I mean, I would say so, but I'm not a Catholic, am I? But the point being is that Rubio has been completely strong on all of these points, and he's making moral arguments. against their attempt to moral shame, rather than being just a standard conservative who goes, oh, good point, I literally have no principles or moral arguments.
Well, it's just wild, because I'm a Catholic, right? And it's just wild to me that he's being presented with this argument that somehow just being nice in a really vague way is somehow good Christian, literally, right? And yet, well, actually, a lot of Christianity, you're sure there's the mercy side of Christianity is what people think of, but actually there's a pretty substantial justice side of Christianity as well.
People don't understand that what Jesus was actually preaching was a form of social justice circa about 2016.
So right,
just took us a few years to catch up.
Yeah.
Again, he's just going on. And I think that the best one was this one, which I'm not going to try playing because I'll just be disappointed. But he's arguing with Senator Tim Kaine, so, Democrat grandee, about the South African refugees coming. And Tim Kaine is trying to accuse him of being a racist. And Marco Rubio is just not having any of it. And so he says, are you saying that you've got a different standard based upon the colour of somebody's skin? And Rubio says, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they are white. And I mean, that's the bombshell.
And it's so refreshing to hear a conservative figure not going, I promise I'm not racist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He wasn't like, oh no, I'm not racist. He's like, no, you just hate the fact that they're white. Yeah. And Tim Kaine's got nothing in response to this, because he does hate the fact they're white.
And that is a good reframing of it as well, because, obviously you have double standards.
Yeah. I don't take lectures from people who just hate people because they're white, because these people are in genuine danger of being murdered in a horrific way through racial grievance. So, we're taking them in because it seems to be the moral thing to do. And it's just... Again, I didn't realise Rubio would have it in him, of all people. So, superb. And there was this one that was, again, just absolutely brilliant, just not taking the S. Right, as Senator Chris here is like, look, I voted for you, and I regret voting for you to be Secretary of State. And Rubio's like, you regretting voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job. Completely unapologetic about all of this. And so, absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. I just wanted to give Rubio head pats for all of this.
I just want to say, this chap is he used to be the chair of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, so he's a big Democrat, and if he's saying that he regrets voting for Rubio, then it's a pretty good sign.
But no, my enemies hate me.
Yeah. But that's the thing, right? He didn't think Rubio was his enemy.
No.
Right.
Interesting, isn't it?
I, a Democrat, I'm going to vote for you because I think you're a puppet.
One of us.
A little controllable, uniparty Republican. And Rubio has actually come swinging out of the gates, being like, listen, all you white-hating freaks, get out of my country. And they're like, I regret voting for you. It's like, good, that means I'm doing something right.
Do you know what this makes me wonder as well? Is just about, conservatives in general in this country, for example, is how many of them are waiting for a Trump figure to emerge so that they can do a Rubio and come out the gates and start saying this sort of thing.
I've been told by people who have a lot of contacts on the inside that the Tory and Reform establishment is absolutely filled with people who think that they are the based one on the inside. So
totally.
There is an appetite for it.
They're never the MPs, though.
Yeah, they're just not the MPs, and they're not the ones in the position of power.
Yeah, although there are Conservative MPs that I think it looks like they're sort of in a way breaking ranks. Like Katie Lamb is one who comes to mind, who's been incredibly strong on all of this sort of stuff recently. But
no, it is something that I wonder. But the thing is, then I wonder, well, how is it that you can just sit there quietly and allow them to constantly trash your party, trash everything about the country, and be like, okay, maybe I'll do it tomorrow? I mean, like, what,
it's just it's just a question of back.
Yeah, the time was yesterday, or now, or just immediately.
I suppose what happened with Rupert Lowe was a nice wider message to spread to all the rest of them as well, which is that if you push a little bit too hard, we'll get the police involved. We'll get you arrested over trumped-up charges.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, we just need some people who are just going to come out and be unapologetic. Just like, if you're not happy, that means I'm happy and I'm doing a good job.
Yeah.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.